Should be answering. FedEx question. Stand by.
Folks, grab your seats.
Nice.
So, but they've also got this confirmed seat. So
I am at that age that I am constantly. My inside's anyway. Out of a hot pocket 9 times out of 10. Nope.
Good evening, folks. It's good to have these meetings in the evenings. Working class folks can get out to them. I hope that you're doing well. I want to start off by saying thank you for showing up at this important town hall where we're going to discuss how we believe as residents that the Board of Supervisors should spend the county's second allotment of $9 million from the federal COVID recovery plan, the American Rescue Plan Act. I would like to start with open self-acknowledgements, though. So what that means is military, retired military, elected leaders, community leaders, elected officials, etc. and otherwise. If you would please take a moment to stand up and identify yourself, we'd love to hear from you.
have a Legion meeting here, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, we'll go down the line and we'll start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, friend.
Ken Ledbetter, retired reservist, 33 years old.
Wow, thank you for your service.
Awesome.
Army.
Oh, yeah. Air Force, 20 years. Now I'm on the Avoca City Council. Building.
I'm Brian Lewis. I was in the Marine Corps, and I'm not quite as old as these guys, so I don't have the years to say with my name.
Thank you.
I'm Jay Pearson. I have 20 years in the Army, and I'm also, but all four of us are members here of the American Legion, which is how we know about this.
Nice.
Thank you.
Diane Stamp, Avoca City Council and lifelong resident of Avoca.
Thank you very much,
Well,
Bud.
Dave, my name is Jeff Shudek. I am the president of the Western Iowa Labor Federation, which represents 37 counties and 10,000 union workers in Western Iowa.
Anyone else?
I'm Brian Jack Holder. I'm the co-chair of the Pot County Libertarian Party, and I'm also running for the U.S. House of Representatives for the new 4th District this year. And my candidacy is through the Liberty Caucus. I conducted a caucus to get on the ballot since the Republicans raised my signatures to run for Congress by 400% this time. So.
Thank you, Brian. Perfect. So first we'll go off and start with why we're here.
So here's Brian Shea.
Yes. Oh, hi Brian.
Hey, Brian. All right.
Thank you. Brian.
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good to see you.
Change the names around there.
It says Scott Bell. There you go.
There we go. We'll switch on.
You're going to be
We're just going through self-acknowledgements from military and elected leaders. Otherwise, would you like to introduce yourself?
Brian Shea, I'm from Crescent. I think everybody knows, and I'm on the Board of Supervisors.
All right, thank you.
Just got off work. I splashed off and I rode a motorcycle out here.
Nice day for it, though, wasn't it?
It is.
Very nice day.
It is.
Good to meet you. So we're just going to go ahead and start off with why we're here, setting the ground rules, and setting the meeting's focus. So as I said, the focus of this meeting is with the second round of COVID recovery funding. I think, we can't miss highlighting that, there may be some agitation with how the first round was spent. Was there money spent on the purchase of the Mount Crescent Ski Hill? Yes, there was. Was there, funding spent, on a public healthcare center in Western Iowa when there's a need in Eastern Iowa? Yes, there was. But our main focus for this meeting today is specifically about the second round of funding. And we'll talk a little bit more when Jerry gets up here about how we came to start working on these ARPA funds, these COVID recovery funds, and what our response was from reaching out and surveying. We reached out to about 16,000 people in total since November. So who I am, I'm Dave Bashaw. I'm the regional organizer with United Today, Stronger Tomorrow. I'm a farmer, one of the youngest first-generation farmers in the country at 27 years old. And I've been organizing with unions and political campaigns and doing community organizing for about a decade now, since I was 17 years old. United Today, Stronger Tomorrow was founded in response to the COVID-19 pandemic to identify the most prevalent impacts due to COVID-19 on local economies and communities, build a base of power among working class folks in these areas, and make sure their voices are heard. We've all been trapped up for the last 2 years in our houses, and some of us might not be going to our city council meetings. Some of us might not be talking to our representatives and elected leaders in the regular fashion we used to before the pandemic, and there's a lot that we have to learn from each other. And that's why it's so important to have these meetings to reconnect back across the county again. My work initially started when I was called upon by some local residents concerned about COVID recovery fund spending happening already without public input as encouraged by the Treasury. So I thought I'd just start with some surveying, and I would like to pass it off to Jerry. She'll go ahead and highlight what we've learned from our November poll, asking about the Public Health Care Center as well as the ski hill.
Okay, before we talk about the future allocation, my name is Jerry Frederickson, and I want to share with you United Today, Stronger Tomorrow tech surveys that have been conducted to acknowledge what we've learned from urban and rural Pottawattamie County residents. The first survey was done in November of 2021, and the question was, Pottawattamie County intends to use $4+ million in COVID recovery funds to build a public health care facility in Council Bluffs. Do you agree with this? And the Council Bluffs response was 59% supported it and 41% opposed it. Now, on the switch side of that, rural Pottawattamie County supported it 27% and opposed it 73%. Now, we had also people making comments, and some of the comments they made, one from Oakland, okay on the facility, but should be in the center of the county. Another one, I would prefer as a mental health professional to see the money not spent on a brick and mortar facility, but for the funding of greater access to mental health and substance abuse treatment. We then did another survey in February of this year, and the question was, what do you think about Pottawattamie County Board of Supervisors using $2 million in COVID recovery funds to buy the Mount Crescent ski area? And the overall report on that, there were over 10,000 residents contacted, 453 respondents. The supporting the spending was 21.4%, and opposed was 78.6%. 28.6% of those opposed did sign a petition and sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors concerning this matter. Some of the comments from these people, particularly from the rural areas: thanks for doing the recon work to find the public opinion. Another one, it's my thought that COVID relief funds could have gone to help businesses and families financially impacted by COVID. Restaurants were particularly hard hit by the virus. And just one more, what's done is done, but taxpayers should have a say where taxpayer money is spent. And that's why we're here tonight, to focus on the next round of COVID relief funds. I'm going to turn it over, well, and also if you want to look at any of these surveys when we're done and look at some of the other responses, please find me. And I'm going to turn it over to Shawna Anderson. Shawna?
Hello, you all. My name is Shawna Anderson. I live in Oakland. I am a small business owner, though. I have a small salon, in Council Bluffs. So during COVID, we were closed down for 8 weeks, which, you know, whether you feel that was great or not, it really doesn't matter. We were closed for 8 weeks. And what I did, since I couldn't go to work, was, me living in Oakland, there was a small bar in Macedonia, you all maybe are familiar with or not, the Back 40. They got some funding to do like a Meals on Wheels program for the elderly people and those that couldn't leave their homes, or, you know, that were a little bit more at risk of getting COVID, to make sure that we were delivering lunch and dinner to them so that they weren't leaving their homes every day. So I called them up and volunteered and just drove and dropped off meals Monday through Friday, which was really great. I got to kind of, you know, bond with some of the older people in my community and ask them like the things like, hey, you know, I'm gonna make a Costco run on Monday. Do you need to try and sort out some toilet paper and separate it out for you guys, or, you know, get eggs or whatever the case may be, because there were a lot of different needs in the community that I really saw during that time. And speaking with some of these folks since then, a lot of that need is still here. You know, I made a lot of calls to the different cities. I called Avoca, you know, calling different cities within Pottawattamie County and asking some questions about what some of the needs were. And some of the things were things I would have never personally thought about. You know, like, and we've heard a lot about the public health facility, and I just kind of want to take it to, we did this Thursday evening in Oakland, if you're not familiar, that we did it on Thursday. And somebody got up and spoke, and he was a teacher, and he had a few notes and was going through some different things, and his wife had jotted down, she is a dental hygienist, and she had jotted down that being in the healthcare industry, not only do we need, you know, hey, it's great that we're having the Pottawattamie County, the new public health building, but we do need something for public health further out in the county. A lot of people here don't have the access, they don't drive into Council Bluffs. Some people are homebound and can't make it, you know, for just various reasons. Going to Council Bluffs is too far, too difficult. And she had the great idea, which told her husband to mention it when he got up to speak, that we could do a mobile public health unit that could go different communities on different days of the week to service the people, you know, such as, you know, myself in Oakland, you all out in Avoca, Neola, a lot of those places, Walnut. I mean, our county is just huge when it comes to square footage. And a lot of folks that are way further out feel that, you know, we're kind of being ignored. You know, and obviously there was a lot of stuff as far as the pandemic affected my business and my family in all sorts of ways. But what I'd really like is for you all to kind of come up, tell us your name and tell us your story and what maybe, you know, what your ideas for this funding are, or what maybe could have helped you. So somebody would like to come up and speak, or if you're more comfortable staying where you're at to speak, that's fine too.
Could I answer a few things?
Please.
Just the public health deal. Right before COVID, I was not on the board, but Council Bluffs had been running that forever. And the new mayor, or the mayor and the council decided this is a county deal. This is not a city deal. So they turned it over to Pot County right before COVID hit. So like, it's all been brand new. And granted, I ain't been there a year and a half yet. I'm not defending them, I'm just telling you. It is a big deal, and we all saw it with COVID, okay? The next thing, the building, it is not a $4 million deal. The building's gonna be somewhere in the 6 to 8 million. The COVID relief fund is gonna fund somewhere in the 2.5 to 3 million. Now listen, you guys, I'm not speaking for the board. I want that, I'm just here as Brian, okay? I'm just trying to help.
Fuck yeah, I'm glad you're here.
I mean, I'm from a little town too, and I feel what you feel. And we have talked about some kind of mobile thing out here. But there's a lot of input into the health building. And what we're trying to do is raise more funds for it. And there's some state things that have to go within that building. I'm trying to think everything, you guys, I've had a busy day.
So I do know, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I do know the animal control is going to be in there.
Medical.
There's going to be one person from the state of Iowa that's a health person.
WIC.
Is the VA going in there as well, or no?
No, not the VA. The VA's got its own building.
There is one other thing maybe, but
I'm trying to think. Mental health is going to be in there too, which the state took over mental health, which is a big deal for all counties. But they're going to rent offices from us, I believe. You guys, you're writing stuff down. Okay, I'm trying to remember everything.
I got it recorded, Brian.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, Brian. I'm like a court reporter.
Yeah. Don't put it on Facebook. Now, the ski hills. When COVID hit, and there's been some studies, and I hope all of you have seen this, people that spent time outdoors have less mental health things going on with them. Did you see that recently in the paper or anything? The state done a study on that. It's been nationwide.
They needed to run a study to figure out the people that are out there.
I didn't run it. That's the state, the federal, and all that. Now, if we said, instead of Mount Crescent buying that, we bought 106 acres that added on to Hitchcock Nature Area, okay? What they're doing, it come close to 3.5 million, and we had to do a study with that 1.5 million from Iowa West, which will come somewhere in the 60 to 80,000. They got to see what they're going to do there. So now we have one of the largest parks in the state of Iowa, and I know you're from Cedar Rapids.
Oh, me, Fayette County, yeah.
Okay, and they have a lot of parks up there, don't they?
Echo Valley.
Actually, Pottawattamie County is one of the lower amounts of acres per park for our population. And this come up due, now we got a possibility of really having a premier park there. A lot of people want more camping, they want more recreations, and we're looking at that. And I honestly believe that in 3 to 5 years, people are gonna go, that was magnificent. It's also, we're improving the park at Arrowhead. We're trying to do, not trying, we are doing some stuff down here at Macedonia. And out of 106 acres of the ski hills, 30 of it is the ski hill, okay? There was also a house there with, I think it was 6 acres and a big shop. Then there was another farmhouse there, and I think it had 4 acres, don't quote me on those. So we got 2 houses with it, which in my eyes, I think is.
So we're taking it off the tax rolls.
Yes, we are, but in the future, that.
You mean is in the past 30 years when it hasn't made a nickel, the ski hills haven't made a nickel? The only person that's going to benefit.
I've known all the owners there. And
I've been there myself and skied. I live on White Crescent north of you guys. It's a money-eating hole. It's a skis resort in Iowa, for Christ's sakes.
we did have the people from Sioux Falls come down and look at it and go over some things with it. And they think it's a pretty good deal.
All I got to go on is a back record. I mean, that thing has never done well.
Okay,
Never.
so if it
I
turns
think
into
the question that we have for you, especially the supervisors, if this fund is only coming one time, this is an allocation from what happened, to COVID-19 and how it affected the economy, and they have a certain priorities to fill, I think the public has at least the decency for you guys to let us know your equity lens, your decision-making process, and how is that going to affect the sustainability of our economy. All right, if you look at what ARPA funds suggest to use those funds for, I still haven't seen any equitable distribution. And that's why we are here, because we want the next funds. You already spent all that money without consulting with the community or the small communities. This is already deals that you guys probably made beforehand. COVID, you said this happened before COVID. So how are we gonna, the next fund, become equitable? How is it gonna affect the communities that worked? Let me finish.
We did purchase
Can I finish?
new radios. Well, you interrupted me. We did purchase new radios for all the towns and the sheriffs in the county, which was huge. I've been on that committee for years, and that's been one thing that all us little towns have really been concerned about. We didn't have the funds, and that was a huge buy for this. And remember, I'm not speaking for the board. I'm speaking for me, okay? I'm not a representative of the board. I am on the board, but I can't speak for the other 4 guys. And I want that duly noted.
You are an elected official.
Yeah.
But I'm not
You
speaking
can
for
speak
them.
as an elected official.
Okay.
I do want to rein the conversation back in.
So do I.
Yeah,
We're here to
I
talk
do wanna
about
rein it in.
future, not past.
It's about-
I know, but it's been a big deal. All those have
do
been a
better.
big deal, and I keep hearing about them. And then when someone talks to me, they say, we don't want to talk about that.
I'll talk about
Well,
anything
but
else.
you do. So I just,
So for the next round, what's the equity land, or what's your decision-making process? How are you gonna involve the community to spend the next million? What's the approach from the county of supervisor? That's why we're here to find out. That finally a person showed up to one of our community meetings.
And we thank you for coming,
hey,
Brian.
listen, I did bow out at 2 meetings tonight to come here. And I didn't have enough time the other night to get out of that meeting. Because first off, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather, and my family comes first. It just does. So,
All of us too. You know, we have
yeah,
families.
and
We have.
I do want people to think, I do care about these little towns. That's why I got on the board. I do care about these little towns. I've got relatives here in town. I could go on and on, but it matters to me, and I'm here to listen.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming, absolutely.
You guys,
We appreciate it.
I didn't sign up not to do this.
I don't think we're here to beat you up.
And I just want to, okay, I appreciate that
You're
one.
just a single target.
Because
Yeah.
I was scared of coming here because I thought I'd get beat up. I really did.
But that's what elected officials have to deal with.
Go back and tell the other
That's
4 next Wednesday that there ain't nothing to be afraid of, man. We just want to keep up.
But I would like to hear that, but the mentality of the council, let me understand, the mentality of how you're gonna distribute the next of the few funds. Do you have any knowledge or what's gonna happen, or?
Coming and listening to him.
That's exactly what I'm doing, just listening to all of you.
That's what he's trying to get. Yeah, this is the portion right now is sharing the story of self. And next steps, we can talk about maybe sending some questions back with Brian to the board of, how can we make sure that there's community inclusion? We know there's the McClure Engineering Group. We know that they've done surveying of elected officials. Like I said, everybody's been trapped for the last 2 years. They may not be talking to elected officials, so it's imperative that this fill that gap where we're talking to everyday community members. So if anybody can get up and speak to, your story of self, your struggle through the pandemic. I know you've been sharing concerns about affordable housing. Maybe you can talk about that, Ramon, or if anyone else can get up and just speak to the.
So my name is Ramon Calzada. I'm Executive Director of Central Latino of Iowa. Our mission is to provide education and empowerment to the Latino immigrant community in Southwest Iowa. And also now we run what we call the Iowa Spanish Helpline, with a lot of funds from private funds. Different foundations are helping us to reach out to the working community. As you know, the Latino workforce is very much needed in the state of Iowa. For example, in Oakland, we have a meatpacking factory that have 800 jobs and only 500 they can, work over there because of the transportation issue. And second, there's no affordable housing, in that small city or small town. And they need to work. Iowa, as we know, the immigrant communities like your ancestors as well impacted the economy. So now the new economic need is to have bigger workforce. not just in those kind of jobs, but also in the new high demand jobs like digital training. So at Central Latino, we're the only Iowa agency that got the grants from Google to train, the next generation. We got 1,000 scholarships. We're the only agency that got it. Not even the community college got it because our equity lens. We do care, and we're going to provide that education to move from meat packer to project manager, from farm worker to data analyst, that all of you can also benefit. Your children can also benefit, to training that education. Training the workforce is one of the ARPA funds. Is to train the new workforce and the new needs, especially digital needs, what we call the high energy, new wind energy. We can't stay in the past. We have to move forward. If we want our children to stay in our farming communities and they don't want to be farmers, they have other careers they can also do and come and live and work over here. So that's one of my jobs, to make sure that those resources, the national resources, the state resources, and the local resources go to the people that were affected by the pandemic. Here in the ARPA funds, one of them is for the essential workers. What are we doing to help them to get a high-paying job? I got a grant, a private grant for $100,000 to give the meat packers at least a gift of $500 each to thank them for the work that they did during the pandemic, so you can have food on your table. And we have to do something for the farmers who work very hard to provide, all that food that they have to do. Same thing with the pig farmers, same thing with all the people that provided the food, not just for Tyson, because they make a lot of money. They make the most money, during the pandemic. So state funds are given, to provide that help. And of course, we're going to deal with the mental health issue. We're going to deal with child care issues. And those are the issues that concerns to you in this community. Small businesses, how much money that is going to help recovery for your all small businesses. I drive through Avoca, very much alive downtown you got here. A lot of people don't want to go back to those businesses because they don't have any funds. Nobody's buying. Everyone's going online now to buy things or deliver it to their homes. So how can I create community in those ones if you don't invest right now in this allocation? Because it's only one-time funds. Then what's going to happen to Avoca? So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and I hope the county can listen to all of us about how we can participate in this allocation of funds, which is our tax-paying money. This is our money, this is the people's money, and the people have to get involved and speak about how they want their money to be spent on, not just by people.
Where did this money come from? I've heard twice now that this was taxpayer money, local taxpayer money that's coming in.
Yeah, this is
Federal tax.
Yeah, it's from the
just-
state and local
they
fiscal
borrowed it.
income
I
program.
don't know, it
Borrowed
just
$10 trillion
keeps sounding
from
more and
last
more
year.
like, this is something we've all paid into personally. I mean, just our local area, we got $9 million somewhere and they went off and spent it off on a bunch of other stuff. And the big question I've got is, so far, I've heard about that we bought, with the old funds, and we bought a ski hill, and you were stated that some of the cities and stuff got radios, and he wants to do labor.
all the cities.
What does this have to do with COVID? I mean, this is a COVID relief package. This is supposed to be getting people that were affected by COVID, or by the COVID virus, not whether the city got radios or not. And you said that because people got out and skied, they were healthy. Well, you say the same thing if,
Ran to the park.
but people out there that were chewing bubblegum had a healthier life too, so that means all bubblegum. We need to get bubblegum to everybody, so they take $9 million for bubblegum.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did other counties get certain amounts, like Harrison County?
Yes,
Yes.
So everybody got
Is-
some.
They all get 9 million?
They're all different.
I don't know exactly what they got.
But they got something.
And every city did too.
And Woodbine is.
Have you guys been to the city council meetings?
No, but I filled out their survey though.
But, see, one of the problems with little cities is people don't come to our meetings.
You don't have
And
to
you
go
got
right-
these
you don't have them at
people,
the right time.
you got
right?
these people running the city, and then they go, well, them people are running the city, and they don't know what they're doing. Come to the meetings.
Nobody that carries a lunch pail can come at 10 o'clock in the morning.
I agree.
They need to be at night and they need to be all over.
The meetings at
It's a
night,
two-way,
people
it's a two-way
go
street.
after work.
It's a two-way street.
It is, but then a lot of those people have to, that are in departments and stuff, they have to come at night too. And it's a big deal. I don't mind
That doesn't
coming.
matter. That
I
doesn't
would,
matter.
what?
That doesn't matter, though. As a public official, it's your duty. And that's my opinion. I'm John Springhauer, by the way. I'm sorry I came in late, guys. I'm candidate for Board of Supervisors, and I'm on City Council in McClellan. But I think that's, first of all, thank you for coming. I have the utmost respect for you to show up. I just came from the forum, which everybody
Did you?
else.
And I was
did.
gonna go to that, and I
there's
had
no reason
another
that the rest
meeting
of them
before
couldn't
that.
come too. But back to what we were talking about. As far as the meetings go, because I've heard that before. Well, you got to pay all these people to come. That doesn't matter. They're getting mileage. They're going to get compensated. If we have board meetings throughout the county, or even just move them tonight, it's going to make a big difference.
My wife's got dinner.
But that's, I can tell you with the people I've talked to in the county, it's give and take, because when you have a meeting at 10 a.m. in the courthouse, you can't govern a whole county from the west side inside a courthouse. That's just not the way it works. And you know that. You're a realist.
I do. That's why we have the courthouse here, that,
Right. But
why that was ever shut down.
It's underutilized, and you know that.
Yes.
But but you can't govern at 10 a.m. every week. The other question I have is why, look at the meeting today. I know you weren't there. That meeting was 30 minutes. What a waste of our time.
But the week before.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, absolutely. But why are we doing meetings every week? Because people can't keep, and I don't want to get off on a tangent either, but people can't keep up with this. And you hear me talk about transparency a lot at these events and things. And that's because people can't keep up. Number one, we can't understand what's in the minutes. We have no idea what you guys are doing with that money. I've tried to keep up. I've been going to meetings. I've been paying attention. We have no idea what you're doing with that money. So when you don't have transparency, you don't have accountability. Number two, they're at 10 a.m. We're working. I've had a hell of a time trying to keep track of just going to the meetings and watching them on TV or on YouTube, and that doesn't count for transparency. Transparency is accessibility also. So having them even at 4:30 or 5:30 at night is much better than 10 a.m. Why? And when you have them every week, we can't keep up because things are being passed and happen so fast. Look, we're a busy community. We're a busy county. But we're not that busy. We're not that busy. We could go every other week and we would be just fine. There's other counties out in the state that are maybe not quite as big as us, but they have a lot going on as well. They have them once a month, twice a month. So those are things that I hear from people that I talk to throughout the county, and I'm just kind of letting you know that. But anyway, back to whatever. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. Sorry.
And I do just want to interject here real quick. Some of these are really good points. I'm sure that Supervisor Shea will take those back into consideration. Maybe some of these things can be adopted if they do public input. Maybe there will be some night meetings like this. But I do want to show. They have opened up public comments, and a lot of these issues that I know that these are things you want to bring up to Brian, and you can do it every Tuesday at 10 a.m. But I really want to impress. We want to focus on the second round of COVID funding and what we can do with that, so then that can be taken back. And we're going to be sending you the survey results and everything as well, and hopefully a game plan to implement some of these things. But I would like folks to get up and speak to your story of self, your struggle through the pandemic, and just what you've noticed in your community.
I think we should send the money back.
Agreed.
Feel free
You
to
realize
share that.
there's over 3,000 counties in the United States, over 3,000. If every one of them got $9 million, that's ridiculous. We're treating this like it's Christmas.
We borrowed
The
$10
pandemic
trillion
is
in the
over.
last year and a half.
Whether DC wants to admit it or not, the pandemic is over. We need to quit, because every time you turn around, they say, well, we're robbing our grandkids and our kids of their future. It's exactly what we're doing. We need to stop putting our hand in this jar, send it back, and tell them in DC, enough is enough. Quit allocating money for this. There's people that suffer too. There's no doubt that people suffer. But we need to quit this, because what they're doing is they're making us dependent, and it's exactly what the left is doing right now, and that's what they want to do. The money comes to you in the mailbox. You don't have to do anything. We can't give it back to work, and our president doesn't understand why. Because you can walk to your mailbox and get money. Why would I go to work? Well, because the work ethic isn't there. I've been a carpenter for 42 years. It's a good trade, I love it. Sometimes I work hard, sometimes not so hard. But I work because I'm supposed to work, and I'm supposed to earn a living for my family. But this money that keeps coming out of DC, do we not understand that this is destroying the country? I mean, we can't keep printing it and just handing it out like candy.
The left doesn't understand that. That's
They don't.
just it.
It's coming to us, but it's coming to us, and the Board of Supervisors
Right.
has the job of deciding how to
It's
spend it.
it's here. So
Well, like I
So
said,
that's
it's
what
been
we're here to discuss, though, is
taken
how
by-
to best,
Taken by a national ad,
how to
TV
best
ad,
allocate
and tell
that money.
and implore every county and city and state to send it back.
My name's
Not
Jeff
all
Shudek.
of
I'm
them.
president of the Western Iowa Labor Federation. I know Brian pretty well, actually. But I guess you're the one I'll address. I'm just going to speak for the workers, and I was lucky enough to pretty much come unscathed. Me and my wife kept our jobs, so I don't have any hardships really to say about myself other than the fact for all the workers that I represent. And the one thing I do hear about is affordable housing, Brian, and I know that you guys are trying to do something with that already. But I just want to reemphasize, like Ramon said, this money only comes one time, man. So let's do the.
I know we're working.
Well, guys, I don't know. I thought we were coming to talk about what we're going to do with it. Like, me and you aren't the senators or the president of the United States. This money's here. Let's talk about what we're going to do with it. If not, I mean, sending it back is.
That's something to do with
That's
it.
the problem, everybody thinks like that, you know.
It's not, well, we all
We
think.
have
that-
it, so let's spend it.
Too many people think it's federal money. It's still our money. I don't care where it
It
came
is.
from.
Yeah,
It's
that's
still our
Still
money.
comes out of our pocket.
Absolutely.
We're
Absolutely.
stupid enough to be working the entire time.
Brian, I think, Brian, it sounds like maybe you should tell the board to send all the money
A lot
back.
of these
I don't
small
know.
towns have.
How's that
debt.
sound,
Long as
man?
you
I
have
don't know.
the debt,
I'm
that's a
trying,
small town.
but worker housing is what I'd like to talk about. Thank you.
And the LMI money, or low and moderate income housing in this county is very high, you guys. I believe it's around $220 to $240 for an affordable house. Can you believe that?
You mean, so like purchasing a house?
Low
is-
and moderate income is about $220,000 to $240,000 on a house.
That's what's considered low to.
Yes,
I'm sorry, what?
that's, you guys,
I thought you-
that's not my deal.
I can't
That's
wrap
a
my head
state
around
deal.
that. I
That's-
cannot wrap my head around that.
I can't either. That's hard to
when-
believe.
You know, last,
But there again is why that is, because they've been printing so much money, it's driven that up.
But also, housing is in short supply.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. We can't build them fast enough, and they're burning out west as fast as we build them. So that's another story. So anyway, these little towns, I know in Crescent, when we do a housing addition, and all these little towns, when they do a housing addition and they TIF something, I could do a brief synopsis of TIF, but say your property value's here when you start, and when you're done, when you certify your TIF, it's up here, they get to split that money between the developer and like your city, like Crescent did, okay? And we gotta put 43.2% away for low and moderate income. So Crescent has a couple $100,000 right now. Then we've got another development coming, which we signed when I was there. And we gotta put 43% away for low and moderate income. So what you do with that, Oakland started an industrial foundation, which they're rehabbing some old homes and getting some people in there. They're trying to build some lower and moderate income homes, not the 240, I think. But the county has been supporting Advanced Southwest Iowa, which we have an office in Oakland, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and they're going around to these little towns and trying to work these industrial foundations. I know it sounds weird for housing to be called a industrial foundation, but it's a legal deal. And they're really trying to work with these to get young families into our towns. Right now, you guys, all these little towns are on a growth spurt because during COVID, and we saw a lot of cops, anti-cop, okay? People are sick of that. Crescent's booming. I can tell you that, it's booming. Neola's, I mean, we could go through all these little towns. Avoca's booming. About the only one that isn't expanding greatly is maybe Walnut and Macedonia. There's some expansion, but not that big. The jobs are in Omaha, Council Bluffs.
They're outside the 40 mile range.
Pardon?
Outside they're out, Walnut's outside the 40 mile range. We're right on the edge of it. We're just catching.
Right. But we are looking at helping housing and stuff throughout this county. One of the things, we're working with a developer on tiffing a piece of land southeast of Council Bluffs. There's a possibility, not a possibility, it's happening, about 200 homes. And we're expanding the water line down to that for them to do that. We're trying to get more people within the county. One of the things the county board has done is lowered the mill levies. Now, we talk about people buying homes all over and the affordability and stuff. Some people out of Crescent just sold their homes for over $500,000. Our valuation went up over $79,000 in 1 year. And you know what it was? My neighbors sold their homes for that money. And that's what's happening throughout this county, throughout the state, and throughout the country. That's why our taxes are going up, but we're lowering our levy. So it isn't an easy deal just to go, oh, we do this. Then we're in the middle. Here's all the workers and everybody in the county wanting this, and here's the taxpayers going, you know? So then you're in the middle.
Workers are also taxpayers. Yeah.
I'm a taxpayer too.
Yeah, the workers are also taxpayers, so.
The worker versus the taxpayer.
I'm not, but I'm just saying the county workers, I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that. But they always want a good raise, you know, which, you guys, they deserve. They really do.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna have people like this guy over
They
here
deserve
to
an
be a
easy contract,
carpenter,
too. That's a
to be
story.
able to build
Different
the
story for
houses
different
if
day.
you can't afford to live here. Like, that's, you know, I mean, at the
It's
end
getting
of the
that way,
day,
isn't it?
if you can't, you know, it's gonna make that cost of housing go up even that much more when we can't have the people here to serve the community. You know, we're running out of, everybody has to drive in to serve
there's
our
a lot
smaller
of different-
towns, and that's why they're dying.
A lot of different
What
parts
does
in
it have
the
to do with
equation.
spending the COVID money?
Right, well, yeah, I was about to say, we're getting a little bit off
I
track.
Yeah, we are.
Brian, I think one big issue a lot of people, including myself, have is there's so many issues in this county. Oakland Manor, for one.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad Oakland Manor is. So when we look at the grand scale of everything, we're having housing issues. There's a teacher that spoke at the last one. He makes $33,000 a year and can't even afford a home in his own town. So we see all this stuff happening in our county, and things that are being depleted, not being taken care of. And you guys just spent $2 million on a Hitchcock expansion, but it's a ski hill. Hold on, let me finish. You just spent $2 million on that. Now, you said yourself you paid way too much for that because I've watched the video. You said it in the video.
Okay.
But what we're looking at is prioritization. What are your priorities? Because right now, you want to expand Hitchcock, that's fine, but can we do it this year? Because to me, it's like maybe that should have waited. And I know everybody says, well, there's only one opportunity, and Justin was big on we got to get it done now. But yet, Matt Wilbur came out and said nobody else is going to pay any more than we are, so we don't have to worry about that. So when we see you spend that kind of money on something like that, because let's be real, that's a financial liability. That business is a financial liability. And you and Justin both said in those meetings that we don't have to be in the ski business. So we just paid a premium for a business that we might not even operate in the future. That's a waste of money. I'm sorry, but that's a waste of money.
Okay.
I know Hitchcock expansion's important,
Listen,
but when we see
before you
Oakland
got here,
Manor
we
and
talked about
Shambles,
this.
these are issues. Those are
And
issues that need to be taken care of. I'm
I
just telling
also
you, that's
am not the board. I come
know you're not.
as me.
I know you're not.
To listen.
Yes.
And we talked about this before you got here, okay? And I appreciate what you're saying, but are we talking COVID or are we talking?
That my point is people are upset.
You
because
could have
there's-
talked
So
can
this
attack
the next
board
9 million.
at a board meeting, okay?
Listen, I can't actually, because they put it in in the thing that I can't even do that. But my point is, this next 9 million, you've already pledged $1 million to the hospitals.
Yes.
Okay? Where's the rest of it gonna go? That's what we wanna know.
Okay.
Where's
So
the
what I
rest of it
just-
gonna go? Because
what I just
right now,
passed out here-
we're not getting any answers from anybody.
What
From
I just
anybody.
passed out here was an infrastructure survey. If the QR code, and don't feel ashamed, I didn't get a smart phone until 2019, when I was essentially forced to by my job. So I don't know how to use it much either. My team still makes slideshows for me on the internet, but if you can't use the QR code to take our infrastructure, or excuse me, our ARPA COVID recovery funding survey, I do have some physical copies. Just raise your hand, I'll go ahead and drop this off. But as other folks are coming up to speak, and mind you, I'd like to speak for 2 minutes, and if someone's already spoken before, if we can refrain from speaking until everybody that wants to has a chance. We'll have a second round of speaking after we do the survey. But anyone else want a physical copy of the survey? You'd like one? Oh, you'd like a physical copy? There you go. Anybody else want a physical copy instead of the QR code? Or which would you prefer? Hard copy. You'd like a hard copy? That's right, that's what I prefer too, honestly. Never mind, don't sweat it. But yeah, I just want to reaffirm, so we've got maybe I just need to rephrase it. We got 9 million coming into this county. The first 9 million spent. I assume you're not going to be selling the ski resort, and I assume we're not going to be not building a public health care center, but there is 9 million. Yes, there's been $1 million pledged to the hospital, but what are some ideas on what we can spend that money on? And let's try to keep the last 20 minutes or so of this town hall specifically towards that.
If you all have this sheet in front of you, like it tells you like what the different buckets are for what the funding can be spent on. And we've already talked about a lot of them. It could have been given for payroll costs for essential workers, could be used for mental health services, could be used for job training, small business, economic assistance. If you have businesses on your main streets here who are struggling or still trying to recover, child care, affordable housing, all of these things are on this list. So if you have ideas, they may fit into one of these buckets. And like I said, we've already talked about a lot of them, so we've just hit on those without even, I need my cheaters to read this really fine print, so if anybody else is having trouble with that. But that's there for your reference as well. I just think, and I encourage everyone to take this survey, because I used to have a boss who said, none of us is smarter than all of us. And I think that's the value that really is at the center of this whole project, right? Is none of us is smarter than all of us. And if we can get everybody's suggestions and hear from everybody, then, we're going to make better decisions overall. So.
And if anybody's interested about the physical survey, the internet one does it automatically for you, but it's what it is out of all those categories, the 9 buckets we divide the survey into, choose 3 of those buckets and then select 3 of the drop-down answers in each of those. That'll help us to identify what your top 3 priority buckets are, as well as within those buckets, what your priorities are. So if it's K-12 education, it might be food programs inside of it, whatever it may be. So, and if anybody's got any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, if you're done and you'd like to get up and speak, or if maybe the Treasury expenditure report sample evokes some kind of thought in you, please get up and share.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out this is supposedly COVID money, right? And this is to help us with the problems we had as COVID developed.
The people that were most affected by
I know,
COVID.
so this should be dealing with getting people back on their feet from COVID.
Well, yeah.
Not getting them jobs, not getting them education. It's not here to buy a ski resort, I keep bringing that up, I'm sorry.
No, they're all right here.
Yeah.
They're all on this other sheet. No?
Right, but I think what he's saying.
But no, it's just that, if this is supposed to be COVID money,
Yes.
then let's get it onto COVID subjects. Not all this other stuff. Or change it to say, okay, this is county money now, and we're gonna spend it on any damn thing we want.
Well, that we're not
But then
allowed to
let's
do,
clarify.
there's that.
We're either gonna spend it on COVID, because that's why we got it, or we're just gonna tell the government to stick in their left ear, and we're gonna spend it any way we want. Then we can go to this survey and say, okay, here's how I think we need to spend it. Other than that, let's get people that were affected by COVID back on their feet and get them fixed. Not the rest of it.
One thing I want to share with you, Jay, and something that I didn't think about until I started surveying folks, because, you know, you might think, oh, you know, the jobs thing or the affordable housing, that might not be COVID, but one thing that the pandemic did is it laid off a lot of folks, and specifically it laid off a lot of older folks that were close to retirement, that were high risk of COVID and the insurance premiums and things to that effect. Ageism in the workforce is an extreme issue right now. There's a lot of older folks. Actually, my organization employed an older fella named Orrin over in South Dakota who had lost his job at the state due to the pandemic when there were cutbacks. And it's hard for him to find another job for the last couple of years before his retirement. So in ways, you know, all of these categories, they've all been analyzed by the Treasury. In one way or another, you know, if we think about it more comprehensive, we can find ways to identify and tie that into, you know, into COVID, just the same way as, you know, the radio systems. You know, that was I mean, personally, you know, myself, I would say that's a great expense, you know, updating first responder radio systems. You know, that's something, you know, that intercommunication integrating with the state system, that's something we definitely needed. So, you know, it might not seem like it on the surface, you know, jobs, but it is, you know, COVID affected every aspect of our lives, is what I'm saying. But I do agree it needs to be focused towards COVID recovery.
Yeah, but I mean, using, you know, that analogy, anything and everything we want to spend that money on can be related to COVID somehow. Go back to my bubble gum. Everybody that chewed bubble gum was happier. So we give everybody bubble gum with that $9 million, and we're going to make everybody happy, and it gets spent.
That's why community input is very, that's why community input is very important, because the community know what the needs are, and then that's what we're here for. You know, you have to express what your needs are in your community, so at least the people who have the decision-making power are listening to you and listening to what the needs are, how you were affected, because exactly, everything can be related to COVID. I mean, the whole ski thing is related to COVID because the tourism industry was affected. You know, that anybody can use that. But if we're going to prioritize as a community what our top 3 bigger needs, I think that will be at the bottom of what people think the money should be spent. People who think will be business or small business recovery. They will think about more training so we can get ahead, you know, a different kind of job because I lost my job because of COVID, or mental health, you know, services because, for example, my husband is an alcoholic, and during the pandemic it just got worse. And every time I went to get treatment, I had to pay cash. You know, I already spent $100,000 in treatment for my own cash money, but that's affecting my back and our business, you know, things like that. You know, we need to speak what really affected us to go in our community so we can tell these people who are making decisions with our money that they prioritize and it is equitable, that all the communities that were affected also benefit, not just the few, but all. That's what we call equity for all. And that's what ARPA Fund is trying to do. If you see at the ARPA Fund, that's the first line. It should be an equitable process and equitable distribution of the funds, you know, from our community. But you have to listen to the community.
With public participation.
Okay, so like, since nobody's really like telling much for stories, I'll give you another one, which is not business owner Shawna. It is wife, mother, daughter-in-law Shawna. So my mother-in-law had a stroke. It was way past COVID. It was a year ago in March. And she lost her ability to use her left side. So when she returned home, she was in the hospital for a while. Then we moved her to skilled care, basically, to try and get her home. She was able to go home for a while. My father-in-law really was not doing a very good job taking care of her. She had home health care. At first was coming in about 3 times a week. And the further into COVID and those sorts of things, that as COVID started spreading more and more of her home health care people were getting sick and so on and so forth, she was having less and less people come in to be able to check on her, take care of her, make sure she was getting bathed, getting those sorts of things. She was, they put her in the hospital afraid she was getting dementia. She actually had a UTI because she wasn't being cleaned properly. because she didn't have enough people in there to take care of her. And COVID definitely affected that because the people that were there to take care of her were sick and they couldn't expose her. So we moved her from Grand Island in with us. And my home is, I mean, it's big enough, but all my bedrooms are upstairs. So my husband and I work together to get my 68-year-old mother-in-law, who can hardly use her left-hand side, upstairs to bed every night and downstairs in the morning. I have a salon in Council Bluffs. My husband mostly works from home, but had to start going to work into the office on Tuesdays. And he works out in Valley, Nebraska, way the heck out there from Oakland. So I no longer work on Tuesdays, which is why I've been going to the Board of Supervisors meetings, because I started taking Tuesdays off to help take care of Mom. So if we had like a county health building, like a second public health building that was maybe further out in the county, like out towards this way, to where we could maybe have people who worked in home health care that were deployed from that area instead of deployed all the way from Council Bluffs. It wouldn't be that we can't get to everybody because we don't have enough time, because there's so much drive time. And I know I'm not alone, that there are plenty of people who are taking care of family members that no longer have the help from trained professionals that they need. I mean, I will do whatever it needs to happen, but I'm obviously not trained on how to shower another adult. So, you do what you got to do. But, so for me, that's when I think of, these stories of self and so on and so forth, like how has COVID affected you and what could possibly make whatever has happened to you or your family a little bit better, or your friends or whatever a little bit better. That's kind of what I think of, is that, for me to have been able to, even if we had to move Mom in with us and we could have a little bit of help and respite in our home, because at one point in time it had been almost 7 months before my husband and I had left the house together, which is really a lot longer than one thinks it is, and a lot more important than one thinks it is. So yeah, when Dave is saying, use those stories of self and look at what maybe has happened to you because of COVID, or maybe with COVID entwined. I think those are the kind of things that we're looking at and trying to figure out, like, where those needs could be met with some of these dollars, especially for those of us, like I said, that live further out in the county and we aren't on the west end of Pottawattamie County. So I really just encourage you guys to, if you have any little bit of something to share here so that I could take it back to the board, that would be great.
You guys, it's 8 o'clock and I'm on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
40 miles to go with 2 deer. I really appreciate you inviting me. And,
Oh, thank you for being here.
you guys, I really care. I wish when you get on a board, you're one vote. You're one vote. And
So, I guess one thing that I look at, all right, yeah, we do need the public health facilities. Council Bluffs, in my estimation, has minimum 2 with the hospitals there, right there, privately owned. But they are still considered public health facilities because anyone can go there and get services rendered. We do not have that type of thing out here. So why do we put that kind of money in Council Bluffs? Why not put money out here for a facility that can really service the rural area? Because let's face
I like the idea.
COVID really hurt out here for people who didn't want to or couldn't travel to the city.
I think the mobile thing sounds really good.
That
That way you could use the hard money to purchase the things, and maybe Brian could talk Iowa West into doing something besides putting fluff on. And maybe,
Well, yeah,
and maybe fund it
instead
going
of
forward.
sculptures and statues, we don't need those.
Things that we
I mean,
need. And,
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much for showing up, Brian.
Whatever we got for the answer to the survey, or will you send me the answers to the survey?
Oh, answers? Yeah. Oh, like the answers that we get.
You'll get everything, I
I
promise.
thought you meant like cheating on a test,
You'll
sorry.
Supervisor Shea, one more question. Yes.
But no, I mean, I think there's, those sorts of things. are effects that, I know, especially looking further out in the county, we've seen a lot more of, we don't have.
Well, that's kind of a trend, that's kind of a trend.
Yeah, it is.
They'll invest something, they'll say, well, we're gonna invest $2 million, but the going forward cost is cost to keep that thing going, because at the end 30.
All right, so it is 8 o'clock right now. I would like to hear from some new folks. This is our last couple minutes before we go towards next steps. Is there anyone that feels compelled to speak to any of the things that they may have saw in the survey, might have saw in the expenditure report? Did it evoke some kind of emotion or story of self? Would anyone like to share anything or any additional ideas? So far, we've got affordable housing and potentially a mobile clinic or an eastern side clinic.
I'd like to say something. I run for public office at every opportunity, and if those of us that are elected had done this kind of activity and behavior before the election, it would head off most of the problems in terms of the communication and the unilateral decision-making that they sort of get themselves into. So by polling the constituents every day on all these issues, we can really find out where people's preferences are in terms of policy decisions. But, I admire his courage for being here to take the criticism from some of us. That's not easy, but if you bring everybody along and give them a ballot, you don't have to deal with that, because we're all equal, just like on election day, so.
Well, we're all equal on election day, you're right. But when we go to the poll, we elect people to represent us at those entities. So, yeah.
I wouldn't hire him to be my lawyer. So.
Two of them are up, this or 3 of them are up.
3 of them are up. 3 of them.
Well, with that, I'll go ahead.
Bill, what were you saying?
Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
I'm just saying that if you are upset, go talk to them. And that's what we're kind of trying to do here, right?
Yes.
So, making a pure democracy here is chaos. So this kind of forum is fine, but to say that you have to have one of these every day is ridiculous. That's why we have elections, for people to make those decisions, and if you have input into it, go fine, go talk to them. On the city council here, I'm always available for anybody to come talk to me about something. But when it comes down to it, those people are making the decision. So input's great, but you hire them to make those decisions, whether you like them or not.
And vote wisely. Tonight we saw one representative here. I know who I'm voting for next time. That's crazy, you guys, that's crazy. One supervisor.
20%'s better than 0.
It's better than what we had last week in Oakland, so.
I was at the same event as the rest of the supervisors. They were all at the forum, so they could have made it out here with no problem.
What forum was that? I'm sorry.
It was a Republican, they had all of us candidates there, and we had a Republican forum questions and.
Glad handing.
At the college.
What's that?
Was it glad handing? I mean, were they're campaigning? That's what the forum was.
Yes, yeah.
So, to me, I guess this is a little more important.
I would agree, that's why, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that gave them an excuse not to be here tonight.
Last
Yeah.
See how that works.
fundraising, this Tuesday, they were campaigning.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have an excuse for why they can't make it to next Wednesday in Council Bluffs as well.
And yet they
brought up
spent
the
millions of dollars without
And
asking
they
us
get
on
paid
what.
$58,000 a year. They don't have that much.
And I think it's brave of Brian to show up.
Yes.
think it's
Oh, I
really-
appreciate it.
But the thing I can't agree with is when he sat there and said, I'm here as Brian Shea, I'm not a supervisor. Yes, you are. You were elected by the at-large, whatever. So whether you want to wear the hat or not.
But
you're
like
an
he
elected
says, he's
official.
just one vote. It's just one vote, and people need to vote
Well,
wisely.
yeah.
I'm tired of people voting for a party.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
ridiculous.
So I.
Well, and the other
wisely.
thing I want to say real quick about Brian, again, I'm happy that he was here, but and I didn't have a clock on it, but he really dominated the conversation, and we invited them here to listen to you all, and listen to your stories, and listen to what you need, and instead, you know, it was more of a defensive posture and defending what they've already done, and that's not really helpful, because what we're trying to talk about is how we spend the next $9 million, and we want more input on that, so.
Well, and him saying, I'm a Crescent boy too, I live out there by him, and Brian's endorsed my candidacy to run for Congress before, but when he said, I don't want to see this on Facebook, this video, what the hell? I mean.
Did he say that?
Yeah, on videotape.
Well, I suppose the next thing that we can briefly talk about in our last few minutes is next steps. How do we get all of the supervisors in here, into this room, in front of us? You know, we tried it in Oakland, they were occupied, we tried it here. Thankfully, Supervisor Shea showed up, that was fantastic. How do we get the rest of them here? Does anyone have any ideas? We've sent letters, we've sent over 104 letters to the board of supervisors from citizens.
Dave?
Yes. Yeah.
I personally know Scott Belt. I taught with his wife for 35 years. And so I extended a hand and said, hey, you want to ride to Avoca with me? And it took him several days to get back to me. And he said, thanks, but I have this forum. And I said, where? And he said, Iowa Western. And so I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to also put in my message that, you know, we're here to give input. You don't have to take our advice, but we appreciate you listening to us as people of the county. So that's what I intend to do.
Maybe we can get the next batch here.
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Supervisor Roundup, right?
You need to have forums like this that mean something to them. I mean, if this is just with 20 people, you know, we're 20 votes if we all vote.
But
We talk to our friends, we talk to our friends.
And you're all around the county too.
You talk to 20 people, that's 20 votes, you may have got it. But those other guys don't even know there was 20 people here, you know, they can go sit in Council Bluffs, they don't have to drive as far. They can go out and shake hands, talk to people, and get a whole lot more votes, because as politicians, that's their job, is to get elected and then spend the rest of your time in trying to get reelected.
The issue is, this is county money. What we need to do is take them off the hook and have them distributed to the towns in the county based on population or square mileage.
But then that's your city residents, that excludes your rural residents who also live in the county.
No, if you take it, well, the district you were talking about, everybody will be in a district. And if you
But
say.
he's saying distribute the money to the city.
Well, if you got city areas.
Yeah, city areas based on square mileage and population.
Normally, I mean, you can't go out, the guy that lives, you know, 10 miles out of town, you can't go give him $3 million just to, you know, do what he wants because he's one person. You give it to the city with the intent that they put it into healthcare. You know, we've got a health place here and we've another one down by the museum. Making sure they've got what they need.
The issue is,
How do we get them to, you know, what happens if this happens again?
Oh, God, no.
Well, the other issue is we've got different groups, and I appreciate you guys putting this on. We got different groups compete for pieces of that pie, and they may not reflect the needs of the individual communities. You know, they're looking out for their self-interest.
I agree with you. It needs to be divided between the communities, and then the communities need to decide how they want to spend it. That will extend services not only to their city, but their area. Their area. And everybody gets that piece of the pie. We come up with what we want to do. We tell them our idea. They give us the green light and we go.
Right. And the last thing I would say, I think on that survey, you know, as far as the brick and mortar building, you probably capitalized on COVID at its height. I think if you did that survey now, you would get a different answer of who supported and who did.
And I've spoken to a number of city officials, and you know, I mean, that survey started back at the, you know, what was it, the beginning of 2021. I understand that some city officials didn't understand the framing of the survey within the confines of the ARPA rules, the ARPA Treasury rules, nor the infrastructure funding. So I think that, yeah, if it was framed in that way, then and now, the results would be drastically different, but here we are now. Here we are now, and we're at a point where the money's coming next month, and we have one more meeting in Council Bluffs next Wednesday. I hope that you'll come if you're able to, bring some family and friends, invite folks that are maybe close to that side of the county, and get them out there. But with that, unless anybody's got any last things to say, I'd like to open it up for any additional items. I think Jenna had something that she wanted to.
I would like to know, like, in Avoca, if you had an amount of money, like, I don't know, $900,000, what would you spend it on?
I think we will listen.
If they give you a percentage of that pie,
I think you will listen to people
what's your
on
biggest need right now?
Get out of debt.
Yeah, agreed.
Has anybody heard anything from Woodbine and how they're using the money and how they're building like a senior center and a bunch
Yes.
of different things and making
Yes.
their town a place to want to move to and bringing in people that have the money, maybe that can afford the houses? The thing is you can have fairly decent money, but there's so much that goes for affordable housing that a lot of us end up with houses that we've had to refurbish that are still not the best house to be living in.
Well, and the thing with the houses is we're in a huge bubble right now. There's people out there paying 30, 40, 50,000 more for their homes than they're actually worth. And believe me, this bubble will pop.
It's gonna burst.
It's going to be bad,
Here's the
and it will.
thing, location, location, location. And I'm driving out here and I see people that drive 30, 40, 50 miles to go into Omaha to work. Out to West Omaha from Harlan, some gal was driving clear over to my doctor in, by the West Roads, and they drive all the way from here to there. And I says, but here's the thing, there's a lot of houses in Council Bluffs that are just garbage. Just garbage, and you can go up to the old Victorian house. I love that commercial that just came out with Geico. It's a little too Victorian. But anyway, there's so much of that stuff, and it's in the best location. These places are in really good locations, but the houses are horrible. Horrible, horrible. I'm in a house that was built in '56. I paid a high amount. Now they say it's worth way up here, and it's got a galley kitchen, and you can't put a dishwasher in it. And I can tell you more stuff that's wrong with it, but I better not. but that's just the thing, and you can go to the West End and the same thing. And a lot of the contractors back then, and I could name the names from those old families years ago that cut corners to make money. They'd go a block short on the block and the foundation. They'd go a little bit thinner on the flooring in the basement, or all kinds of things. Or the house should have been 5 feet wider, and they didn't, and they cut corners like crazy on a little ranch like that. But there's a lot of houses that they cut corners on, or they were built so long ago that, it's like, it's like they said on this old house, it's cheaper to tear one of these big old houses down and start brand new because you can't put in decent heating and air conditioning or anything else on them.
Well, there's different qualities of turnkeys out there, the people that build houses.
Right.
I mean, I've had people over the years ask me some of the silliest questions. One of my best friends, he said, he was working on some plumbing in his bathroom. And he said, how come there's no shut-offs in here? Why wouldn't you put shut-offs in? And I said, each one of them costs like $8. He goes, well, yeah, that's nothing. I said, of course it is, but I said, you understand, if I put a shut-off under your sink, and you live in that house for 30 years and you never even look at it, that shut-off is a useless piece of crap. It doesn't work. It does not work.
You need
It's
to use
seized
your
up.
shut-off so your house doesn't
And I said,
flood.
here's the other thing. I said, you can have, I worked for DOD for a little while too, down at Offutt Air Force Base. We had a guy down there that complained about the quality of a contractor that came in. They used $20 weather stripping on a door, and they also spec'd some weather stripping. It was $100. But both of them were as acceptable. And so one of my coworkers said, he goes, well, what would you put in? I said, the $20 one. He goes, no, you wouldn't. I said, yes, you would, because you're in business. And you're not in business to give money away.
I cited 30 houses in a month and a half, 2 in one day, 15 years old. I saw things where they didn't put enough, the inspectors caught them, they didn't put enough 2x4s in for the framing. I've seen houses off 25 inches and 25 feet of a 60-foot house.
Fair enough, but that stuff happens, and that's the reason.
It happens a lot.
And that's the reason we have building inspectors.
Yeah, and it happens a lot anyway.
So what's the solution?
It doesn't happen. Here's my
Oh, hey, I worked for a month and a half, and I saw more than I should have
I
ever
guarantee
seen.
I've been at it for 40 years.
That was in Millard, That's a Millard and a whole bunch of
I've been at it
places.
for 42 years. So I
Well-
guarantee you, I've seen dozens and dozens.
I've seen people shit on the floor because the house was all messed up. So I've seen a lot of stuff, and that was in a month and a half, I've seen a lot of
Then you
stuff
would
messed up.
probably want to go
And I
to the
know,
building inspector.
hey, look at, there's contractors that just sued in Council Bluffs for pulling stuff, and you know who they are without me naming them.
Yeah.
You know, and there's people in Council Bluffs still building houses that you wouldn't want to move into their house, and they, if somebody has the money, they're suing them, and there's still a lot of it going on.
Yeah, there is.
And then there's contractors that overcharge and then turn around and brag that they built their house on from overcharging everybody. The dumbass goes and tells that he built a house for nothing on the money that he was overcharging everybody.
So where's
And
the
didn't
meeting
punch.
next Wednesday?
So meeting next Wednesday, so I love this conversation, outside of anything than COVID recovery funding discussion, trust me. I used to do a lot of carpentry work in my young years, so I've got a background in that as well. The next meeting is going to be Wednesday, and it's going to be at the public library in room B. So it's going to be in the public room B. And I can go ahead and if you fill out your surveys, if you signed on to the sign-in sheet, if you haven't hit it on the way out, and I'll go ahead and I'll make sure that I email you all of the information regarding that as well. Remind that you can share it out. We've got a sign-up link that you can share on social media. We can provide that as well. But I do hope that y'all fill out that survey and get it back. And the QR codes, take that with and go ahead and share it with your friends. Have them take it because Brian obviously said he wants that information. Today Justin Schultz said he wants it.
Sorry. If you guys have 2 more minutes in your attention span, I just want to talk to you about something that is like related to this, but not directly related to this. As you may or may not know, Pottawattamie County is the 2nd largest state in the county. And we are not, or county in the state. Sorry.
It's been a long day.
We do not have districts in our county from which our county supervisors are elected. So, like, by law in Iowa, there are 3 ways that you can elect your board of supervisors. You can elect the entire board at large, so they can live anywhere in the county and everybody votes for them. So the second one is you have districts. Each supervisor has to live in a district, but everybody in the county gets to vote for them. And the third way is you set up districts by population, and each supervisor has to live in the district where, and only the people in that district can vote for them, okay? And then there are 2 ways that you get to choose which one of those 3 plans you want to be on. Either the Board of Supervisors selects the plan for themselves, or the voters get to decide how they want to pick their supervisors. Here in Pottawattamie County, the Board of Supervisors has decided that that all of them will be elected at large, which means ostensibly they could all live on the same street if they wanted to. They don't, but they could. And so what we are trying to do, if you're interested in signing this petition, what we are trying to do is call a special election so that the voters of Pottawattamie County can decide how do we want our supervisors to be elected. And it requires 10% of the people to sign it who voted in the prior election. So that's about 4,500 citizens. So you can tell we got a lot of work to do. But 20 at a time is how we're going to get there. So if you guys want to sign this petition before you leave, I would appreciate it. Again, this is just to say, let's call a special election and let us decide how our county supervisors are elected. That's it. So it doesn't tell you how to vote. It just says, let's have an election about it. So if you guys can sign.
It's interesting the number you gave because that number was pushed up because of a stupid thing the legislature did this last year with the voter laws.
Right. It's yeah.
How many counties do have districts?
So we are I'm going to jump in on that
Yeah.
one. My name is Jeff Shea. There are a few that are like this, like Pottawattamie County. We and Dubuque County are the 2 largest, the counties that have a large city, Dubuque and Council Bluffs. We are the 2 with a city that big that has it like this, and clearly that's a problem. I grew up in Underwood, Iowa. And so I know what it feels like to live in Avoca, or very close. You know what I mean? It's something very similar. We're just. I'm running for Board of Supervisors, and so is John. While I'm out knocking doors and meeting you folks, I'm gonna get these signatures, and I'm gonna try to vote myself out. In 2 years, I want this election. I want you guys to pick who's here. I want me to pick who's in Council Bluffs. I don't know anything about Avoca. I don't. And you don't know anything about Constable. You might work there or whatever, but vice versa. And that's the way it should be. That's the way I look at it. And if you ever heard anybody running to get beaten a year or two, that's me. That's what I feel is important.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'll find that too.
Thank you, Jack. So before we head out, everybody at Oakland got together for a photo, and if we can get together for a photo for this one too, they're going to do a report on this in the paper, the Avoca Herald Journal tomorrow. So for anyone that's interested in taking a photograph,
So photo bomb the supervisor name tag?
yeah, but in the paper we will indicate that Brian